The sobs woke Samuel Garrett at 3 a.m., soft and broken, like a wounded creature trying to stay hidden. Barefoot on cold floorboards, he stood in his bedroom doorway, listening to the sound that had pulled him from uneasy sleep. 2 weeks ago, a girl had appeared at his door, a ghost in a tattered dress, offering to cook in exchange for shelter and meals. He'd agreed, tired of beans and hardtack gnawing at his gut, but mostly because her dark eyes carried the same quiet desperation as his daughter, lost to fever 3 winters ago. Now, he crept down the hallway, avoiding the creaky board by the stairs. In the kitchen, her silhouette hunched over the table, shoulders trembling with suppressed grief. Moonlight caught the wet tracks on her cheeks. In her hands, she clutched a small photograph, fingers tracing its edges like she could hold on to what was gone. Samuel had learned not to pry. In this country, everyone carried ghosts, and most preferred to let them lie. But her sorrow stirred something buried with his family. She was barely 16, all sharp angles and hollow cheeks, living on hope and air too long. She'd been a good worker, better than good. His meals were now something to savor, not endure. She moved through his house like morning mist, there when needed, invisible when not. She never spoke unless spoken to, never asked for more, never gave him reason to regret his kindness. But she never smiled, never hummed, never showed she was more than a ghost haunting his kitchen. Tonight, though, her grief filled his empty house with something alive. He should have turned back, let her have her moment, but his feet carried him forward, drawn by an ache he thought he'd buried. She looked up as his shadow fell across the table, eyes wide with the fear of someone who knew being seen meant being vulnerable. "I'm sorry, Mr. Garrett," she whispered, wiping her face. "I didn't mean to wake you. I'll be quiet." She started to rise, to slip away as always, but something in his face stopped her. Samuel pulled out a chair and Saturday, "What's that you're holding?" Her fingers tightened on the photograph. "Nothing important." "Everything's important at 3 a.m., he said, voice softer than she'd ever heard. "Especially what makes us cry." She stared, weighing risks behind those dark eyes. Finally, she turned the photograph. A family, mother, father, 2 children, smiled from better days. The girl in the picture was younger, untouched by whatever had carved her hollows. "They're gone," she said. "Cholera, last spring. I've been alone since." Samuel nodded, understanding too well. "What's your real name?" "It's not Mary Smith." "Elena," she said, the word a prayer. "Elena Rodriguez." "Where are your people, Elena?" Her laugh was bitter. "What people?" "I'm the last." She touched the photograph. "I keep thinking if I stare long enough, I can go back. Make it so I'm not alone." Something passed between them, a bond forged in shared loss. Samuel had buried a wife and daughter, Elena, her entire world. They were survivors of different tragedies, learning to breathe in a world that had stolen their reasons to live. "You don't have to be alone," he said. She shook her head. "You don't understand. People like me, Mexican, poor, nobody, we don't get to stay. Someone always finds out, decides we don't belong. Sooner or later, they'll ask questions. Where'd I come from? Why am I here? Then you'll have to choose between me and your standing in town." Samuel leaned back, considering. He'd never cared much for others' opinions. This was his land, his choice. But he understood her fear, he'd seen good people run out for less. Outside, a coyote called, and Elena flinched, wound tight, ready to run. "What if I didn't have to choose?" he asked. 3 days later, riders came at sunset, dust clouds heralding their approach. Elena saw them first from the kitchen window, a plate slipping from her hands, shattering like her composure. "Mr. Garrett," she called, voice steady but eyes wide with practiced fear. Samuel stepped onto the porch, shading his eyes against the dying sun. 5 men rode up, led by Tom Brennan, the general store owner and spokesman for the town's decent folks. The others were neighbors, farmers, merchants, men who'd helped bury his family, brought food during dark months. Brennan's face was grim, no social call. "Sam," Brennan said. "We need to talk." "Light down." Elena made coffee. "It's about the girl," Brennan said, staying mounted. Word spread. Folks are asking questions. A Mexican girl shows up, no family, no references. That's suspicious. Samuel's jaw tightened. Suspicious how? Dangerous times, Brennan said. Apaches south, bandits crossing the border, cattle thieves. A girl like that could be scouting for trouble. She's 16, Samuel said. Old enough to carry messages. Jake Morrison, a neighboring rancher, cut in. My wife saw her in town, asking about who lives where, supply wagon routes. She was buying supplies, Samuel said, feeling a cold weight settle. I sent her. Maybe she was mapping defenses, Brennan said. We respect what you've been through, Sam, losing Mary and Catherine. But you can't let grief cloud your judgment. Behind him, Elena's footsteps retreated into the house. She was listening, hearing herself painted as a threat instead of a girl who made strong coffee and hummed Spanish songs. What do you want me to do? Samuel asked. Send her away, Morrison said. Tonight, before she brings trouble. The others nodded, faces set with certainty. Samuel looked at them, friends, men he trusted, and felt the weight of their words. And if I don't? The silence answered for them. After they left, Samuel found Elena packing in her small room, folding her dress, tucking away the photograph. She moved with mechanical precision, gathering a life that never took root. You don't have to go, he said. I do, she said, not looking up. I heard them. They're right about people like me. What people, Elena? He stepped inside. The unwanted ones. She closed her bag, hands shaking. The ones who don't belong. My daughter would have been your age, he said. Catherine moved quiet, like you, like she was apologizing for existing. I told her she had as much right to be loud as anyone. Took me 2 years after she died to realize I never learned that myself. Elena turned, something fragile in her eyes. I've been living quiet, Samuel continued. Not making waves, letting others decide what's right. But seeing you pack, ready to disappear because someone says you don't belong, it reminds me keeping quiet isn't keeping peace. They'll make your life hard if I stay, she said. Maybe. But they'll make it empty if you go. He pulled a small wooden cross from his pocket, carved with care. This was Catherine's. Mary made it. I've carried it like it could bring her back. He held it out. Take it. I can't, she said. It's not mine. I'm not her. I'm nobody's daughter. He pressed it into her palm. Maybe you could be mine. The word hung between them, heavier than any contract. Papa, she whispered, tears spilling, and Samuel felt something frozen in him thaw. At dawn, Brennan returned with 8 riders, carrying collective righteousness. Samuel was ready, standing on his porch with Elena beside him, her hand in his arm. She wore Catherine's cross, chin raised in defiance. Last chance, Sam, Brennan called. Send her away, or we will. She's not going, Samuel said. This is her home. You're making a mistake, Morrison said. The only mistake was waiting to make this clear. Samuel's voice carried quiet authority. Elena's my daughter now, legal and proper. Anyone with a problem takes it up with me. Morrison urged his horse forward. You can't just adopt some stray. I expect, Samuel cut in, decent men would welcome a child who's lost everything. I expect neighbors would be glad to see my house filled with laughter. I expect friends would trust my judgment. Elena squeezed his arm, trembling but standing firm. Look at her, Samuel said. She's 16, alone for months. She cooks better than your wives, works harder than your sons, asks only for a place to belong. What threatens you? Silence stretched, doubt creeping into their faces. Brennan shifted. If trouble comes because of her. I'll handle it, Samuel said. Like I would for any family. One by one, the riders turned away, not with apologies, but with grudging acceptance. Elena sagged against Samuel. Is it over? She whispered. It's over, he said, pulling her close. You're home. Years later, Elena, with children of her own, would recall that morning as the moment she learned the difference between shelter and home. Home wasn't walls, it was people who stood by you when those walls were tested. Visitors to Samuel's ranch always saw the same thing. An old man and his daughter working in the garden, heads bent together, their quiet talk mingling with the prairie wind.